Hey guys, I know it's been a while, but welcome back to my channel. I'm gonna show you guys how I made my birthday dress. This could be a prom dress, evening gown, whatever you want it to be, okay? So let's get right into it. So I start with my pattern. I'm using a full dress pattern that I, adjusted to fit me. And I'm just marking my cutouts. I have another video similar to this, which is a little more detailed than this one. But yes, I start with my cutouts, which you see me doing. But before I actually cut it on the paper, I'm gonna use this paper to cut my mesh. And I have my paper folded, and then I have my mesh on fold. And I just clip it together, and I use my rotary cutter to cut out my mesh piece. And I stop this like just a little bit under the knee because my cutout kind of extends that far. So I did cut this full bodice dress piece in half. I cut it a little above the waist, which you can see here. So I'm cutting my lining first, and I do cut it on fold. And I do cut it on fold so that it could be symmetrical. But I'm going to cut out those individual pieces that I have marked out. So you see me pinning the paper to the lining so I can cut those pieces out. And I'm using my rotary cutter so I can have a nice clean cut. This is usually my go-to. So I'm cutting along exactly where I drew my lines. And here are my two pieces. I do line these pieces with my sequin beaded whatever fabric, what you see me doing, and I'm just pinning the beaded fabric to the lining, and I'm just pinning all the way around before I make the cuts. So yeah, I just cut around. Okay, and that's one piece done, and I just do the exact same thing to the other piece. And I'm going to line these pieces by sewing all the way around, as you would typically see in my videos. And this is me using my sewing machine. I also cut the beads that were on the edges because I was breaking needles, it wasn't sewing properly. So I do cut the beads that are like along the edge. And this is me cutting out my lining for the back. I also separated these into two pieces, so a seam at the waist. So yes, I take my full dress piece, I have it on fold. I did leave some space on the side, about a little more than 1/4 of an inch, just space for the zipper, which I honestly didn't need, but yes. And then I started to flare out so I can have a little bit of flare in my dress, and then I just cut straight across. And then I'm cutting up that seam in the center, again, space for my zipper. And off camera, I cut that seam at the waist. And here you can see that seam is already cut out. And then I'm lining it just like I did those top pieces. I just lay my beaded fabric on top, and then I pin all the way around, cut off the excess, and then I just top stitch all the way across. So you see me pinning, and then I cut. And then again, I cut off those pieces, the beads off the edges, just so it was a little bit easier for me to sew. And here you see me snipping those beads on the edges, like I mentioned. This is very tedious, but it's kind of, it's better than breaking a bunch of needles, so I would definitely recommend it. And this is me lining my bodice just like I did everything else. And here I have my two back pieces. I'm making sure that they line up properly. This is me lining the skirt. And then once I have everything lined, I just lay my bodice right on top of my skirt and then sew a straight stitch across. And I'm gonna do the same thing to the other side as well. And I'm gonna sew right along there. And then here I have it all lined, and then I'm gonna just sew my zipper on. I did sew that off camera. So we're back to my front pieces. So here are those two pieces lined, but they ended up being too long, so I did cut it off. I cut off about 2 inches. And then I'm gonna just pin it to my front skirt piece, which you see me doing. I'm laying it across, good sides to good sides. and I'm just seeing what it looks like. I didn't want like a really big gap in between those pieces, so I just moved it over. And then I'm marking where I want my little cutout because it wasn't lining up on my original pattern, so I'm just redrawing it on the paper that I used originally where I want my cutouts. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm going over it with the marker, and then I'm just going to cut it out with my rotary cutter. And I'm only doing this because I had made a mistake in the beginning. It was a little loose, too much skin was showing. So this is me fixing that mistake, and I'm just cutting, that cutout after. And once I cut it out, I do go back and top stitch. Again, I have a more detailed video on how I did this. And then once I fix those pieces, pin them together, I'm going to take that piece that I just had and I'm going to lay it, or those two pieces that I just had, and I'm going to lay it right on top of the mesh. And making sure those, areas match up. And then I'm going to pin all the way around. And once I pin both sides all the way around, I am going to take it to my sewing machine and top stitch it. And I'm just going to sew all the way around. And as you can see, it's kind of off. It doesn't line up properly, which is fine because the front was too big. So I was fine with this. I had added extra seam allowance just because this Miliskin fabric didn't stretch as much as I thought it would. So it was okay that it didn't line up for me. And this is me with the base of the dress done. Yes, a little revealing, but this is because I hadn't added the pieces yet. So these are the applique pieces that I'm using, and I'm using my wood burner to cut off the extra mesh. And since I was being lazy and I didn't have a lot of time to finish this dress, I did glue it on. I wouldn't do this for like a client, but it was for me and I was in a rush, so I just glued it on. A little quick weave dress. And I'm using, it was called Magna Tack. This is how my dress turned out. I made this dress within a week and I'm just very proud of myself. It looks really good. Again, be sure to check out my other tutorial. Follow me on Instagram, subscribe to my channel. And if you have any questions, be sure to leave them in the comments. Thanks for watching.